Ollie, when you hear your players say, I think we can be better than people think, the expectations are the same, what does that mean to you?
That's important. They're the ones on the field. And I think, rightfully so, there are a lot of questions around the reset and what does that look like and what competing looks like, what success looks like. You have an opportunity to truly win. But when you hear the guys that are actually on the field expressing their way of looking at this, and you go down that list, I've listened to a lot of their interviews over the last 2 days. They've been pretty confident about what 2025 looks like. They're looking forward to it. There's some really good energy behind it. A lot of good conversations this offseason, and they're looking to not just play a game, but compete and win, and just leave their mark on this franchise. They're playing for something. So when you hear Mason Wynn, Sonny, and Donovan, and those guys talk about what they're looking forward to, they mean it.
All this much better. It's one of the things he said this weekend. Just kind of how much spring training you use?
It's set before spring training. I mean, when you listen, there's a common language right now about how they're thinking about this. They're young. That's all it means. Like, we try to sometimes attach more to that as far as they're not going to compete or we're not going to. They're young. They're going to be electric. They're going to play fast. They're going to be absolutely relentless in how they approach this. And that tone is set before you step foot in spring training. That's what you do in the off season. And then you go execute and make adjustments in spring training so that you can hit the ground running when we open the season. So,
because of the uncertainty of Nolan Arenado, how does that determine your reps with Nolan Gorman at third and second base?
Yeah, fair question. I'm treating it as if he's with us until I get a call. And I've had great conversations with Gorman, and he's prepping. He'll be ready for anything. So he's done a really nice job of making sure that he can do whatever we ask him to do in the spring.
When you were talking to Daniel, we talked to Jordan yesterday. He was really excited about where Grant, he was showing as far as load, his change, and all that. Do you get a sense of even that so far how that is kind of?
It's been awesome. A lot of credit to Brownie. He has been incredible this offseason. I mean, he brings energy for everybody. And he's traveled around, he's gone and seen players, he's hitting with them, they're making adjustments, he's gaining that trust early on. He's super knowledgeable, and he's able to speak to different hitters based on what they need. But he's done an incredible job of hitting with Gorman almost every day. He's visited with Walker and Siani and Vic and all those guys, and Jordan has taken to it. And part of it is getting back to what's comfortable to him and making small adjustments based off of that. And he's been very positive about it. So I feel like that relationship has started in a really good direction.
With young players, the challenge is sort of adjusting and then readjusting, but also making sure they don't get away from themselves. Do you have a sense now that Jordan has sort of he's done so much work and worked so hard that it was maybe about letting him find himself again, how to get back to his center and stuff?
Yeah, I feel like he described that well. He said there's adjustments to be made, but getting back to what he does well and then making those adjustments layered on top of that was something that was more comfortable to him than he's been able to do this offseason. And our hope is that we report the spring and some of that starts to kind of come to the surface. And the thing is that there has to be some patience to it, because if it doesn't click immediately for him, that's okay. It's not a light switch, but I feel like we're heading in a really good direction with Jordan. And he's excited about it. You can just tell in his overall demeanor and energy, and like there's excitement behind how he's feeling at the moment. So that's awesome in itself.
Burleson was saying the leadership has to come from within because it is a younger core. I know you still got guys like Sonny in there wanting to say Wilson, but how promising is it that Burleson, Donnie, Gorman are all collectively wanting to make this a strong unit and building that leadership as a core?
That's when it works well. And Sonny said this clubhouse is kind of the young guys have to do their thing. And he's right about that. But if you listen closely, he also said, "Man, I love coming alongside the young player," and that's why he's good, because at times he may look like he's not approachable. This guy, I mean, he's willing to talk baseball at all times of the day, and the young guys love that about guys in that clubhouse, Sonny and you mentioned Wilson, who are extremely competitive and love teaching the young guys. We were at the baseball writers dinner last night, and I mentioned the fact that both those guys called no and said they wanted to stay here is extremely meaningful, because they're looking at this not so much as like a challenge, but an opportunity. They're embracing that part of our direction moving forward. We want to be a part of that, and gosh, that's what you want to hear. So I'm pumped about, you talk about leadership and Donovan and that young core. They're going about it the right way, and they've spent a decent amount of the offseason prepping for that, which is awesome.
Hey, Ollie, last night at the dinner and even here yesterday, Mason Wynn spoke about how you and he have a great dynamic, and you sometimes just speak to him as real as it can be, and it works.
Goes both ways.
It goes both ways. Yeah. Beyond Mason, just can you talk about how some excitement for how you are equipped and your staff's equipped to manage this particular group of team, this particular team?
Man, you gotta love on them. You gotta love what you do, and you have to. Those relationships, they don't care how much you know until they really know that you care about them as individuals, not just on the field, but who they are off the field. And that's what goes into this, man. I love that kid. I love him off the field, on the field. I think we get excited about what he does on the field. But he has a pretty good vision of how he wants to impact the game off the field and what he brings to the table from a lot of different angles, even diversity and things like he has a really good idea of what that looks like, and he's starting to build towards that. And I want to come alongside of him and help. So like loving on these guys away from the field allows you to speak to them when things don't look right on the field. And he mentioned that yeah, there's been tough conversations, and he's been able to open up and speak freely about how to get to on the other side of it. And he's done a tremendous job, especially for his age, of doing that. So I have an immense amount of respect for him.
Ollie, you've said that this upcoming season is one that you're as excited for as any before. Where does that come from, the clarity of kind of knowing the direction of what it's going to look like and the opportunity to really pour into the young guys?
Yeah, I think Sonny said it well when he said, we're not stuck in between. Like, pick which way we're going and let's go hard. And I feel like we've done exactly that. Like, the team we're putting on the field in 2025 will look different than normal for that today. I think that's exciting. It's a group that is truly passionate about like playing this game the right way, but there's some youthfulness to it, and when there's clarity to that direction of reset, then everyone can buy in and go hard towards it, and I feel like our players are energized by that. So yeah, part of my statement of being more excited this year than many years because there's clarity to the direction we're headed. There's buy-in from our entire staff, and to answer the question of being equipped, our staff is truly equipped for what we're about to do. You look at Stubby and Pop and gosh, John Jay and Scowls, and you go down that list, Dusty, like these are guys that love developing players, and that's what a lot of this year is going to be, like developing players at the highest level, and they've done that their entire careers in the minor leagues, and they're built for exactly what's about to happen here in 2025. So that's where I'm pumped. Yeah.
Ollie, you have two young, talented catchers on your roster right now. How are you looking at that position battle coming into spring training, and what strides have they made this offseason to get better?
They both bring something to the table, and they're different in how they do that, but they're very talented. I think they both showed that they can catch at a big league level. They do a really nice job. They've gained the trust of our pitching staff. They're young, but they're studious, and that's what earns respect, regardless of their level of experience or age. These guys want to know, like, are you as prepared as me? And when you have last year Lance Lynn and a Gibby and a Sonny, and you go down that list of some veteran dudes, like, man, you better be on your A game of understanding the opposition and understanding a plan of attack and how to flip that plan if it's not going well. And they gained their respect because of how they went about it. They studied the game well. There were some ups and downs, but they did a nice job of understanding how to approach each day in that preparation. So I'm looking forward to seeing them both play.
It takes 1,000 components for a team to be good, but if you get Jordan Walker to take a step forward and Nolan Gorman to take a step forward? How much can that be a difference?
You're on it, John. I mean, that's a big difference, and that's going to be the exciting part. I think of Siani, right? And I'll get back to your question, but leaving spring training last year, I don't think any of us had Siani on our radar. We were super excited about him. We knew he was a good small ball type of player, a good defensive player, but what ended up happening is you have a player who was given an opportunity based on their defense to have a longer runway to show what he's capable of. And before the oblique injury, we started to see a really productive offensive player in Siani, and then you match that with his defense, and you had a hell of a player. He had a runway to prove that. So if we would have cut him off earlier because the production wasn't there, then you miss out on seeing what he's capable of doing. So when you talk about a Gorman and a Jordan, and you can go down the list of some other guys, it's going to be good to have that runway. What I mean by runway, to clearly define it, it's there's times where on the surface their numbers, their stats don't look the way we want them to look, the way our fan base would want them to look. But the underlying metrics are showing that they're headed in a really good direction. And if given a runway, take Burleson for example, where his numbers sucked, but under the hood, like, man, this is going in a direction that we really like. Well, you provide them that runway and you get on the other side of that, and then you feel good about it. You miss on less players, you have more clarity at the end of the year. It serves its purpose. So Siani's a good example of that. Jordan, Gorman, all of them fit into that bucket where they'll be granted that. And I think we'll see much better versions of them again.
Another player along those lines, kind of a sneaky guy, would be Newbar, who, if he can stay healthy, you look at the preaching to the choir here, you look at the baseball savant, all that, some great stuff there. Well, what excites you about Newbar?
Two things. He's fun and he's good, and that's a good combo, especially when you have youth and you want to play fast and you want to play hard and you want to bring energy every day. And you're talking about these guys like truly leaving a mark on what we're doing here as an organization. Like Newbar fits that perfectly, because we're going to count on his energy. Yes, he has to stay healthy, but this is a really toolsy player who has a high ceiling. So hopefully he can drop his shoulders a little bit, let loose, and just go play the game. Health is going to be a big component, but I'm excited to see him play this year. I really am. I think he's going to have a really, really successful season. Yeah.
This is a time where a majority or a portion of the fan base is frustrated or apathetic leading into next season. But as you spoke to, Brendan, giving the fan base a direction, you've been in St. Louis for almost 2 decades, you know that fans will respond when there's a clear direction or path to where this club is going. What's your confidence level and what are you going to do to instill that and your message to them, making sure that this is going to be a successful plan for 25?
Part of that has already started in them understanding that baseball here is not like baseball anywhere else. I mean, this organization is truly like in the fabric of this city, is what this entire city cares about. And they understand that responsibility and want to answer the bell. It's meaningful to play for this organization. And there's clear direction in where we're headed. I've gotten that question a ton over the last couple of days. We talked about it last night. It's, are you guys looking to compete? Are you really going to win? Or can these young guys really do the job? The answer is yes. Like, we're not counting on a bunch of guys that are just reaching to be up here. These are guys that have shown some really good months of good baseball, and we're going to give them an opportunity to run. But when you look at our position players and our pitchers, and man, just looking at Matthews and Crows sitting there last night at that base, like there's some really good reasons to be excited about Florida baseball, and I mean that. It's going to be young. It'll look a little different. There's a lot to be excited about. So, yeah, for me, even talking to Newbar before I walked into here, that's why I was a minute late. I mean, he's pumped about the direction we're headed, and there's freedom for our players to understand where we're headed. And I think we'll see a really good product and be energized by what we'll see in 2020.
On the pitching side, if your roster composition doesn't change before spring, it's pretty easy to count to 5 before we even get to the Reedy or Gordon or whoever else we want to talk about, right? How do you view how the rotation sets up entering during the spring? Is it as simple as there's going to be a competition maybe for a couple of spots in that, or how do you look at that?
It's always, I understand the question. It's a good question. It's always hard to say because by the time you get to spring and you're a weekend, health always pops up. So guys know their role as far as Stephen Libby, who was here, he said he's going to come in stretched out based on opportunity, and then we'll adjust from there. So certain guys fit into that bucket, and if we stay healthy, then we have some tough decisions to make. And but if not, we have some guys that can come in after and do a nice job that we're looking forward to seeing.
Where does Zach fit into that?
Into that bucket. I had a good conversation with Zach yesterday at the hotel, actually here in the office, and he'll be stretched out and fit into that bucket as well based on need. We'll make adjustments, but it's much easier as a starter to come in stretched out and then be told you have 1 or 2 innings stints. If you need to throw multiple, you can, but then do it the other way and have to ramp up. So
follow on that question though, what happens if the injury is a week into the season? How do you make sure that you have those starting reserves all the way through the season? Because as you said, once you take a starter, you leave the starter.
Yes, and at times you have to take time to build it back up. That's just part of the game. So if you're asking for a roster composition, having enough depth, I'll leave that one off.
You mentioned when it comes to that non-roster like group in spring, so what excites you, or I guess what kind of stands out to you?
There's some good names on there. JJ, I mean, meeting Matthews yesterday, and actually, I say meeting him, like spending some time with them and sitting down and getting to know him and a little bit of his story. I like the way he thinks. Like I just like the way he approaches the game. There's a part of this as a young player of not caring, and I say that, and I want to make sure I explain it. Like they don't care what Mo thinks or what I think or what are like. They're sure of themselves and they're going to go compete. They're coachable. Like, that's what you're looking for. I mean, talking to him, he was awesome. So I'm looking forward to actually seeing him on the field. Seeing Crooksy again, we've seen him a couple times in camp, but giving him a little bit more of an opportunity to show what he's capable of, those type of things.
Colin, what have you learned from about Chaim Bloom in this process? I know Mo's boss this season, but obviously Chaim's going to be around. Can you just share some things you've learned about him and such?
He cares. He takes all of this very serious, and he has a plan for how he wants to move this forward. The collaboration between him and Mo and myself has been awesome this offseason. The conversations have been very good, and then in meeting Larry Day and Surf and that group, and a very talented, smart, hungry group that is looking to impact this organization in an extremely positive way. So what I love about all of it is the collaboration between the big leagues and the minor leagues and continuing to make it just one. A lot of the development calls for our minor league base running, for our minor league outfield play, the curriculum for our infield play, all of our coaches are on it, and all the minor league staff is on it. And so it's just one big conversation about how to move this thing forward. So the collaboration has been, I have nothing but extremely good things to say about it. Yeah.
Oh, you talked earlier about Wilson and the willingness to stay here. What do you make of his willingness to move off the pitcher spot? Because we talked last year about the work he did last offseason in spring training. You really saw that change, you know, when he was moving behind the plate, and then a year later, accepting this move. What do you think about that?
His exact words to me were, "This is how much I care about this team." He's willing to do just about anything you ask him to do. He wants to be here. He wants to be a part of what we're doing, and if that means splitting time at first and DHing, like he is willing to do what's needed in order to help this team to get to where we want to get to. He's been working hard. Stubby just spent several days with Okendo and Contreras down in Jupiter working on first base and just footwork around the bag and things that were just tightening up certain things leading into spring, and the report was good. So that group is excited about it as well.
Is it a response like that from a veteran guy like him that even gives you further confidence of like, yeah, this whole thing comes together because you've got the young guys, but you've got those veterans in the right spots that do and say the right things to push it forward?
Yes. And then when and not to continue to go back to Sonny, but I think he did a really good job of explaining certain things. You guys asked him some good questions and tough questions, and he navigated it well. But one of the things that he was alluding to is like it was needed. When you look at our young players and you look at the composition of our roster and you look at what's coming underneath, like this new direction is exactly what was needed. And when you get that type of buy-in from the young guys, the veterans, the staff, for like that is clarity to your question as far as like here's where we're headed, and everyone is like excited about it. There's extremely good energy behind like this is where we're going. So yes.
Cardinals excelled last year in bullpen. Ryan Helsing played a minor part in that. But just in general, can you discuss, can you share why you and the pitching department thrive so well, pressing the right buttons seemingly so often with the bullpen last year?
We had good pitchers. We had good setup guys. You always look smarter when you can kind of pick from a hat. The guys do a job, you know. And I credit our pitching staff a ton. I think we had one of the biggest impacts last year as far as growth was in the pitching department, in my opinion. I think we took some huge steps in the right direction in just not only modernizing how we view that department, but instilling certain traits that when you combine it with modernization of the game, like leads to production. And you look at what Dusty and Hooley and Keek and that group has done, and man, they closed that gap big time. So being able to do what's going on in the minor leagues right now as far as the retooling and investing and hiring more people, and the conversations of our big league staff being able to speak into that, and the collaboration there has been great, because now you're getting everybody on the same page. So I'm super happy about our pitching department and what took place last year.
Probably one of your biggest success stories last year was Palante.
Yes.
I mean, he changed the course of his career with what he did last year. What's the next step for him? What is he, like, to be one of those pillars that you lean on every 5 days? Is that the next step for him?
That is. I would just summarize it to confidence. And in talking to him yesterday, he is confident. He's feeling good about where he's at. And sometimes you got to prove to yourself that you belong here. And I feel like last year that's what he did. He was able to kind of check that box of, I'm a big leaguer and I know what I'm doing. So he's going into this year with a little bit more confidence, which should be fun to watch. But that's another one of like giving somebody an opportunity, long enough opportunity to show what they're capable of, and not pulling them out too early and going to the next guy. So this is why it's important.
Although you talk about that runway, and that's over the course of the season, but it can also be over the course of a game. Palante taking him out would be an example of that, but also like get into a big spot, pinch hit opportunity comes up, left on left with Mormon or something like that. You could go to a righty there. Does it change at all your way of managing through those situations with what you know to be the goal of this season?
That's actually a really good question. We could talk about this for a while, because sometimes we only view the one you're substituting as kind of limiting their development, but we rarely talk about the experience of the guy coming off the bench, because that's a role in itself, right? So there's times where, man, you want to develop that bench bat, and whoever that may be. Let's use Baker, for example. 30-minute conversation with him yesterday, and he said, man, my first run up here, I was so nervous coming off the bench. Like, I didn't know what to do. Like, I'm standing there, I'm anxious, I'm swinging at everything. Like, I couldn't even handle the pressure properly compared to how I handled it in AAA. He said, my second time, I was like, I'm just gonna take the bat. Like, I'm coming off the bench. If it goes well, great. If it doesn't, like, it's a regular at bat, right? So there's this big gap. Nothing about mechanics, nothing about, it was strictly how he's processing pressure. And that comes with opportunity. So there's times where I'll stay online with your example of Gorman staying left on left. Gorman hits left-handers, okay? But there are opportunities to also develop the other side of it, of someone experiencing coming off the bench and getting better at that. So you pick your spots depending on what's going on. I don't think there's just one answer of like, no, everyone's going to hit left on left, and we're just going to let the kids play. Like, no, there's different ways to develop this. Yeah.
Following this weekend, there's been a consistent theme from not only established players but prospects and even yourself and the coaching staff. You even use the word as hunger. Is the overarching theme of this winter the Cardinals are hungry and the Cardinals want to prove them wrong?
Yes. Yeah. I think there's opportunity to shock a lot of people. And when you have a group that's young, that's hungry, that's come together, that love being around one another, you've heard it a couple times from these guys, like they just enjoyed what was going on last year as far as like just building culture together. And you let that group run wild. I mean, you have an opportunity to have some fun. And this group they're hungry. They're hungry. You look at the way Mason described things, and New will be on here today. You guys will have an opportunity to talk to him. I think they'll instill some confidence as to how they're looking at this.
Like we've got time for maybe one more. Hate to cut this off. This has been great, but we've got to get to the autographs.
Is the bullpen an area that's more difficult to sort of maintain that runway because of uncertainty, but also because of just the immediate impact that it has on games? Like, to be able to get guys to continue to run them out in certain spots, is that different than giving guys 3-4 at-bats?
No, it's just yes and no, but there's strategy to that as far as how you insert somebody in a low leverage down 2 situation to a tied in the 6th, to a tied in the 7th, to up 2 in the 7th. Like you build them closer and closer to leverage. But there's a way to develop bullpen guys in a way where you're just not going to the fire. There's times where you have to do that, but there's times where you can not script it, but have a better plan as to how you want to get someone to experience and process pressure in leverage situations.
All right. Well, thank you, Alan.
Thank you, Ellie.